Dr. Jaishankar.
Samir, I would say, look, let me pick up. What do you do in this very turbulent atmosphere? I think particularly for large countries, it is important to build capacities to be more self-reliant. That is very much the focus today in India. And because you said you look at it from a perspective of technology, I think in many ways Mr. Krishnan speaking before us gave some of the answers. And what, we speak of multipolarity as though it's something that will happen. You have to build multipolarity. And you build multipolarity by building national capacities. And when you build national capacities and have national experiences, some of it is transposable to other people who may relate to it. So, for example, if you take DPI, digital public infrastructure, there are many other societies who find the Indian model of DPI, frankly, far more absorbable and relevant and transposable than a European model or a American model of how to run a more digital life. Now, it can be big things, it can be little things. What we have seen, because you spoke again earlier about South-South cooperation, many things we've done in India. If you have something like a drinking water mission, or you have taking electricity to every home, each one of these efforts actually has scaled up capacities in India, has created businesses and companies and people in India who can take those capabilities abroad and today actually drive South-South cooperation. So you have a country like India still at $3,000 per capita income, which actually has assistance programs in almost 80 countries in the world. And in some cases, these are billion-dollar programs where what we have done in India, we have taken out of India to some other country. So to me, technology, self-reliance, multipolarity, South-South cooperation, they're part of one basket, and that is part of the response to what is happening, the point number one. Point number two, which we haven't spoken about today, this world which we are talking about will require a global workforce. Where that global workforce is to be housed and located may be a matter of a political debate. But there's no getting away. If you look at demand and you look at demographics, demands cannot be met in many countries purely out of national demographics. This is a reality. You cannot run away from this reality. So, how do we create a more acceptable, contemporary, efficient model of a global workforce which is then located in a distributed global workplace? I think this is a very big question today which the international economy has to address. The third point, and I would like to pick up on your optimism here, if you actually look at it, for all the imponderables, the uncertainties, eventually trade does find a way. And the fact is, it is easier to trade today. It is easier for physical reasons. There are better roads, better shipping, etc. It's easier for digital reasons. There are much smoother trade interfaces than there have ever been in human existence. So, for all the obstacles and complications that may arise, I also think they will be countered in some ways or mitigated in some ways by what will happen, I think, in the trade domain. And finally, I agree with him. I think we will see, as part of this re-engineered world, I think we will see new, more different trade arrangements between countries, countries which will make decisions which they may not have made in other circumstances. Countries which today will feel the desire, sometimes even the compulsion, to have new partners and new regions will look very much more. And certainly I can tell you where India is concerned, in many other regions, and that's one of the points we were discussing today, Latin America, Caribbean, where we actually do roughly about $45 billion of trade every year. But I can see with much greater effort even what may be considered very distant regions today becoming much more relevant. So we are going to, technology-wise, trade-wise, connectivity-wise, workplace-wise, end up in a very different world in a very short time.
No, that's true. I was surprised when I learned during my visit to Mexico a year ago that literally all homes in Delhi get bread made by Mexican companies. I didn't know that, but it's true. A group in Mexico literally owns that, and every third Indian kitchen has Argentinian cooking oil. So very interesting that that is Latin America that feeds us and of course also moves us. But Leslie,
I guess I would just pick up on two things. One is on this idea of I guess there's a techno optimism perhaps on the panel, and I think I agree with the general premise and the call or the need for a global workforce. My caveat would be that I believe that the politics in more countries than not are working against what we need. Populism, nationalism, illiberal claims that are empirically wrong about immigration, about migrants, in too many countries are pushing in the wrong direction for those own people in those own countries and those own leaders. And that's not only at the low end, that's at the high end. Look at what's happening with the politics of H-1B visas in this country. It's absurd. And it's potentially catastrophic for some of the technological capabilities and movement forward that the US needs, let alone the fact that it's just tremendously wonderful to have a diversified, international, phenomenally intelligent workforce in the technology sector that comes from all over the world. We should have the best and the brightest. And that need and that desire and that ambition just doesn't square with the politics, with what's happening across many major research universities in the United States, potentially in the United Kingdom. If you look at the percentage of support for some of the Reform Party policies on immigration, it is very dangerous and potentially disastrous for what could otherwise be transformative potential of technology across many countries. And so I think that we have to be very aware of it, very realistic and honest about it, and work to change the narrative, to change the storyline, but also to produce policies that take the distributional consequences, which are very uneven, and address them and make sure that the benefits are delivered more equally. If we don't learn that lesson, we're not going to make the kind of progress that we absolutely need to make in the next few decades.
Look, I am going to end this panel on an optimistic note. I'm going to turn to Mr. Sulaiman. Mr. Sulaiman, please.
Technology is really the backbone of our business today. And there are many platforms, some we did and some existing. Like with India, for example, India Payment Innovation UPI is a very important system that can be adapted by the custom, and we adapted it today in UAE and Oman and many. We have a port community system, which is basically a platform where when someone wants to get his cargo out of the port, they go into this platform, and from there he will clear his customs, he'll pay the payment, and everything digital without even seeing an officer. In Dubai, we call it Dubai Trade. In India, we call it Bharat. In Africa, we call it Africa Trade. It's the same system. And we used it even in England, called CNS. Blockchain. Today, blockchain is a very important system because I tell you, we have looked at a cost of a commodity, many commodities. We found out that just by using blockchain, people are paying 40% more than the real cost. So you look at the real cost, and blockchain gives you two things: encryption and transparency. And whatever is bill issued, nobody can change it. The supply chain is inefficient, and nobody wants to disrupt it, and we are trying to disrupt it now. And when we go to the trader and show them, they can't believe it. Another one is Trace and Track platform. We have our own, where it gives us an opportunity to actually get the customer ready to deal with it. Another one is called, is from the World Customs Organization, it's called Authorized Economic Operator. And this is very interesting, where basically even if a country doesn't have a bilateral trade, it is an agreement between two customs authorities. We did one with Korea, we're doing one with India now. So with Korea, for example, we suggest the top companies who are well respected, never evading customs, and have good financial backing. And the Korean will give the same. And we will nominate them, and they will get a fast track deal instead of everybody else. And that's already existing. This is existing between America and Canada, and we're doing it now. We're going to do it with India, we're doing it with Korea. So these platforms will help to avoid surprises and delays.
No, I think so. I think that's a wonderful note to close this conversation. That technology is a opportunity, can also be a savior, and can certainly help all of us in building a new framework for the future, which is centered around humans. Like I said, it's a people-first world eventually, because politics also is on the streets today, and people of the streets want answers and responses to their requirements. Certainly, I think there is enough to take back, that there is lots of conversations happening besides what you read in newspapers. So my takeaway is that while all of us are focused on the headlines, there are real conversations happening amongst 193 other countries to build something that is going to respond to the unpredictability that we all live in. So please join me in applauding this wonderful panel for their intervention.